Good evening.
Good evening.
It is now time to call the Orangeburg County School District Board of Trustees meeting to order. January 12th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Permit me to say Happy New Year to all of you, and we pray that you had an enjoyable vacation or holidays. This meeting is held in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The news media has been notified and a copy of the agenda has been made available to the public. And at this time, we ask that we pause for a moment of silence. And please, ma'am, and please, sir, let's remember all those that's going through difficulties in our various communities and even in our state, because, you know, we are really going through some things right now. So let's lift those individuals up in our thoughts and our prayers. A moment of silence, please. Thank you very kindly. Now we ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance given by Reverend Brown.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we will entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move the approval of the agenda for January 12th, 2020 in the new year at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve our agenda tonight for January 12th, 2021. Are there any discussion or any comments pertaining to the agenda? If not, all in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Any opposes? Dr. Quinn, are you there?
I'm in favor.
Dr. Quinn?
I'm in favor. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I hear you now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next we will entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes from December 8th, 2020.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I move the approval of the minutes for December 8th, 2020.
Second. It's been moved and properly second that we approve the minutes from December 8th, 2020. Are there any discussions or comments pertaining to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Thank you. Dr. Quinn?
I'm in favor.
Thank you very kindly. Unanimous. Now we are down to the election of board officers. And just let me say this, I want to thank you for allowing me to serve as your chairperson. And as one individual asked, I said, no, don't put my name back up for tonight. There are 9 of us, so I think we all should have the opportunity, if we want to serve as a chairperson. So I've served for the last 2 years, and that's plenty enough, as we have plenty talent on this board. So we are going to now ask Dr. Washington if he would come and preside over the election of the officers until we select a chairperson. And once that chairperson is elected, then that person will carry on with the other officers. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chair, board members. Tonight we're going to be electing officers. Just as way of background, board policy requires that election of board officers occur every 2 years in January. Tonight we will accept nominations for board chair, vice chair, board secretary, and parliamentarian, respectively. The duly elected officers for Orangeburg County School District will serve a term of 2 years commencing this evening, January 12, 2021, through the first board meeting in January of 2023. Board Policy BD, the organization of the board, indicates that each officer will serve a 2-year term. Officers can serve no more than 2 consecutive terms. Officers will be elected by a majority vote of the board. If 3 or more board members are nominated for a position and no one receives a majority, the candidates with the lowest number of votes will be removed from the ballot, and a runoff will take place between the 2 candidates with the highest number of votes. Voting will be conducted by either showing of hands or by secret ballot. Both are listed in our board policy. At this time, I'd just like to poll the board. All of those in favor of voting by show of hand, could you please show your hand at this time? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, okay. And those are in favor of voting. Oh, Dr. O'Quinn, I'm sorry.
You have to do
I'm in favor of show of hands.
Okay. And all those in favor of using secret ballot, please raise your hand. Okay. We will vote tonight by showing of hands. Okay. Members of the board, at this time, the floor is now open for nominations for board chair.
Dr. Washington, if I'm in order, I would
Yes.
like to nominate Mary Ulmer.
Dr. Washington.
Yes, sir.
I, R.L. Poppy Brown, nominate Ruby G. Edwards.
Are there any other nominations at this time for board chair? Going once, twice. Okay. The nominations are now closed for board chair. We have 2 candidates, Mary Ulmer and Ruby Edwards, for board chair. At this time, all in favor of Mary Ulmer for board chair, could you please raise your hand? Dr. O'Quinn?
Nay.
All those in favor of Ruby Edwards as board chair, could you please raise your hand? Dr. O'Quinn?
I'm in favor.
The vote was 6-3. Ruby Edwards, congratulations. You are now the board chair beginning this evening through January of 2023.
And with that being said, Ms. Edwards, thank you.
Ms. Edwards,
Come up here for that.
you can, if you'd like to come up here to the microphone.
This I can. The floor is now open for nominations for vice chair. Reverend Brown?
I, R.L. Brown, nominate Dr. Deborah Brunson.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Alma?
I nominate Ms. Idella Carson. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, we will now vote for the 2 candidates that we have. The first will be for Dr. Deborah Brunson. All those in favor of Dr. Deborah Brunson, please raise your hand. Dr. O'Quinn?
I'm in favor.
We will now have the vote for Mrs. Idella Carson. Our new vice chair with a 6 votes is Dr. Deborah Brunson, and Mrs. Idella Carson had 2 votes, so our new vice chair is Dr. Deborah Brunson. Congratulations. At this time, we will now open up nominations for the position of secretary.
Madam Chair, Ms. Idella Carson.
Dr. Brunson?
I would like to enter the name Betty Pelzer.
I decline.
You decline?
She declined. Are there any other nominations for the position of secretary? Hearing none, congratulations, Mrs. Carson. She will be continue her position as secretary. We will now have nominations for our parliamentarian. Mrs. Tyler?
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Reverend R.L. Brown.
Ms. Omer?
Madam Chair, Dr. Sylvia Stevens.
Dr. Stevenson? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we will now have our vote first for Reverend Brown. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Dr. O'Quinn?
I'm in favor.
All those in favor for Dr. Stevens, please raise your hand. Our parliamentarian will continue to be Reverend Brown. Thank you so much. Is that it? All right, our new officers beginning tonight. The chairman of the board, myself, Ruby Edwards. Vice chairman, Dr. Deborah Brunson. Secretary, Mrs. Idella Carson. And parliamentarian, R.L. Poppy Brown. I don't know, is it okay now that I can say something? Or do I need to do this later? Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you all so much for your confidence in electing me the new chair. I promise that I will put the Orangeburg County Schools, teachers, faculty, and staff in my first thought in every decision I make. I commit to work with each of you to make sure that Orangeburg County Schools is the very best. I would be remiss if I didn't thank our former chair, Ms. Peggy Tyler, who stepped up in a very difficult situation to serve as our first chair of Orangeburg County. I believe her years of experience and her love for children guided all her decisions in moving this district forward. I would also like to thank Ms. Betty Pelzer for her service as vice chair. I would also like to thank and continue thanking Ms. Idella Carson for her role as secretary and for continuing his service as parliamentarian, the Reverend Dr. R.L. Poppy Brown, because he never lets us down.
Right.
Thank you all so much. So at this time, we will continue with our meeting. We will start with our information items with the superintendent's update.
Madam Chair, again, before I start, I'd like to commend and congratulate all of our new elected officers and also thank those who served this district well in their past positions. Thank you all for what you all continue to do, and look forward to working with each and every one of you to continue to move this district forward. My first order of business is I misread the recognition when I first got it because I thought it was a typo, but come to find out that it wasn't. You know, to give service to a community is one thing, but to do it for an extended period of time is another. But when you do it for almost 2 decades, it speaks volumes. So I have a certificate and a pen here in recognition of Dr. William O'Quinn for 40 years of service as a school board member.
Wow.
Let's give him a round of applause. Madam Chair, we'll make sure we get this to to Dr. O'Quinn and yourself. But Dr. O'Quinn, thank you for your service. It shows your commitment to this community for not just a stint, but what seems to be an eternity, 40 years. But thank you for what you continue to do and in supporting this school district. So thank you, and I am honored to have a board member to serve that long and have that breadth of knowledge here in Orangeburg County. That leads us to our next.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Yes, sir. You want to say something, Dr. Quinn?
I wanted to thank you, and it doesn't seem like that long. I've done the best I could do over these years, and I hope to continue to do that for a while. Thank you.
Well, great. Well, maybe we can get 40 more out of you then. Wonderful. Well, that brings me to my next order of business. To start the new year off, it's always good to do it in a celebratory mode. As you all are aware, this is Board Appreciation Month, and a month that really is kind of deceiving because I think every month should be Board Appreciation Month for what you all do behind the scenes, having to field the calls and advocating for this community and our teachers and our students. But this month's a little special. So what I wanted to do as my first role as superintendent in Board Appreciation Month, I have a saying that on my birthday, I try to make sure that I take someone else out on my birthday. Because, you know, my grandmother told me that the more you give, the more God gives you to give. Amen. And that's a fundamental principle that I live by. And so I try to extend those things here to this community and to this school board. So during Board Appreciation Month, I want to try to start that tradition where instead of receiving that, this board is able to give back to the schools that you guys support so much. So in front of you all, you see some student reading chairs. Mr. Schofield, where is he at here? I want to take an opportunity to thank this gentleman. These chairs were made by the senior students in the building construction class at the Technology Center. Wow. So on the front of the chairs, you'll see that it has a nameplate and it has each board member's name on that plate, and you guys can decide which school you want to donate this chair to in memory, so kids can read and enjoy the education that you guys provide for those students. So that's something that we want to do in recognition of Board Appreciation Month, giving back to our schools. So thank you all for what it is you do. And at this time, can we give the board a round of applause for their generous donation? So, you know, I couldn't leave and not give you anything because you guys do work hard, and when you get an opportunity to put your feet up and relax and rest whenever you can find that time, you may see some larger chairs sitting here in the front of the boardroom. These chairs also were made and donated by Mr. Schofield's senior class at the Technology Center. So in addition to you all giving a reading chair, we thought it may be best if we give you a chair that you can sometimes sit your feet up and relax. So each board member will also receive a chair, and it can be either in the same color or it can be painted to a color of your liking. And Mrs. Schofield and the maintenance department will work to get those to your home for you all. So again, thank you all for your commitment to education, and thank Mr. Schofield and his seniors. The work of our students, if you guys can see this, the craftsmanship is second to none. So this is a display of what's going on in our schools and what our teachers are teaching our students, and the craftsmanship of our students. So he didn't know I was going to do this, but I'm going to give Mr. Schofield about 30 seconds to say something and thank him in that.
That's
so,
wonderful, Mr. Schofield.
First of all, thank you. Appreciate it. You can tell I'm not used to speaking, right? Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
30 seconds, I said. I've been teaching for 30 years, and it's been a pleasure every year. And it's been a calling and a blessing. And I look forward to every year when school starts. And this school year is no exception. And as I proceed through this year, as my 31st year, I just felt compelled to want to do as much as I can for the students and the community and the board, as much and as often as I can. And so this is just one way of saying thank you for 30 years. For 30 beautiful years for me. And I hope to continue as well, longer. I don't know exactly when. I won't let you know that. But I don't know exactly when, but I do want you to know that I do appreciate everything that everyone has ever done for me and with me and for the students. I always said that when I taught and I took the position because I thought I could make a difference. And I still believe that I can, and I'm still hoping and trying to do so. When it comes to the chairs, it's as well, choose the color of your choice. I know that we have sorority members, fraternity members as well. Choose the color of your choice. Let us know what the color is, and we'll take care of that part of it and the construction of it as well. And I also would like to say that during that process of getting it done, I actually had 2 graduate students who came in and worked with me as well. And it's a pleasure to see the students work together, a graduate student and a student who's also enrolled in the program. Because, of course, they ask them a lot of questions and then want to know, well, what are you doing? How do you do this? What did you do when you were here? And all those things. And it's really very, very rewarding. And so this is the labor of their work, and I hope that you all appreciate it. Dr. Forrester, thank you for this opportunity as well.
Yes, thank you for stepping up and helping.
Thank you.
And finally, on behalf of this administration and myself, thank you all for your tireless service and what you guys have done and continue to do. I can't find a board that has had to maneuver the challenges that we've had to maneuver and have done it as well. So you guys should be commended for that and what you do each and every day. So thank you. That being said, Madam Chair, my next item of business is just a reminder of the annual School Board Association Conference coming up here, February the 18th through the 21st. I believe everyone may have been registered. If not, Ms. Marie can help with that. And Dr. Stevens, we know that you'll be joining as well, and this will be your first one, but it's something to look forward to. I've always walked away with a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that's helpful to me as I've gone through these conferences as well. Madam Chair, at this time, if I could step to the podium.
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I can't believe it's been 6 months. July the 14th. It seems like it's been a lot longer than that. But 6 short months ago, I stood here and I presented an entry plan to this school board. And that entry plan outlined not only some of the basic core beliefs that I have, but I also said and shared with you my philosophy on how you should communicate and how you should do things. That you should tell people what it is you're going to do, you update them on the process, and then you come back and tell them when it's done. So as outlined in my entry plan, I stated that in January of 2021 that I will come before this board and give you guys an update on the progress of the goals that you guys approved on that July 14th board meeting. So in your packet, you'll see a update, superintendent entry plan update, similar to the entry plan that I presented back in July. And just as a reminder, I want to take an opportunity to restate those core beliefs that has driven my leadership and has guided this entry as the superintendent here in Orangeburg County Schools. My core beliefs, and there were 6 simple beliefs that I shared and I still carry with me today. And those 6 core beliefs are that all students, no matter where you live, deserve a safe environment where they have the opportunity to develop their outcomes at their highest level. That all students deserve a highly qualified educator and competent support staff to guide in their education. That students deserve facilities that are fit for learning and that are safe. The students deserve a transportation system that's efficient and accessible no matter where you live. That all students deserve access to safe and current technologies that would enhance their instructional and educational experience. And the most important one was that all students and staff deserve to work and learn within an organizational culture that encourages integrity, collegiality, diversity, and high expectations while contributing to student, parents, and community engagement. These are the core beliefs that I expressed to the board on July 14th, and those are the core beliefs that I continue to utilize now as I continue to navigate as superintendent in Orangeburg County Schools. But also in that entry plan, it outlined 5 strategic goals, along with some action steps that would help guide in evaluating and monitoring the progress of those goals. And those 5 goals were, first of all, to establish a relationship of trust with the school board and cabinet and this community, to learn the systems and structures of physical and organizational accountability, also to establish a positive culture and climate between the central office, our schools, and our community, to maintain safety and security of all students and staff, and finally, where the rubber meets the road, to learn the current instructional focus, to identify areas that I can come in as a superintendent and support so that all students will have the opportunity to maximize their academic potential. So those were the 5 goals that this board approved on that July 14th meeting as part of my entry plan. So if you would allow me to kind of give you an update, in your package you have some artifacts. It's just a few that we could include, but you come back and you show people exactly what it is you've done. And much of this you may have seen, but some of it you may not have seen. But I wanted to let this community know that not only are we committed to putting the goal out in front of them, but also coming back and showing our progress, similar to the progress key that was displayed in the entry plan. So my first goal was to establish a relationship of trust and collaboration with the school board and this community. And, in doing so, it started with the entry plan, with getting feedback from you all to say, hey, we think these goals are suitable, but you may want to add this or delete that. That it was a collective mind that said, this is what we want our superintendent to focus on in regards to our goals. But after getting that, it prompted me to move to some other action steps where I met with every single senior staff member, and we established a evaluation tool that we would use for senior staff, where they sat down, and as I had established goals with this board, every single senior staff member has also established goals for themselves, for their departments, and the areas that they oversee. And to make sure that it's consistent and we can monitor those things and that they're consistent with the goals that I've set forth and this board has voted on as what they would need for the superintendent of this school district. So another action step was to establish a department as a cohesive team. So you hear me talk about senior staff often, and those are the 7 senior level officers, but we also expanded that because it's not good enough just to speak to those 7 individuals, but we also have to broaden that and speak with our directors and individuals who are working on the front lines often. So we established a cabinet, and we meet bi-monthly in order to do progress monitoring, but it also gives an opportunity for departments to hear where they can support one another and kind of continue to keep the lines of communication open. So we do that monthly. And in your package, you see a picture of one of our meetings. Dr. Washington heads up the cabinet, while Dr. Sims puts together our principals meeting. So everybody has a responsibility in pulling these things together and making sure that the agenda items are done. Second action item that we had was to utilize appropriate communication and protocols and expectations. So we've done a lot with communication, and you can always get better with communication. But we started by trying to not bombard our principals, and we came up with a communications memo that goes out every Wednesday. It's a comprehensive communication outlining with links for principals to utilize to give them information on what they can be preparing for the upcoming week. But in addition to that, we've also sat down and looked at how our websites and those kind of things can extend communication throughout into our community. Another action step was that I should attend various community events with our cabinet members and our senior staff members. You know, during COVID, it's tough to get out and meet and do things, but we found a way as a collective administrative team to go to various events, to make sure that we have a presence, that people know that we care about this community and we want to hear your concerns and the areas that we can improve, but also things that we can bring to this community that may not have been here. So we've done that on a number of occasions, not only in person, but we've also had an opportunity to do those virtually. You see here on the screen the virtual meeting with Melichamp when they were a School of Promise. You see the community food giveaways that we've participated in, but also OC Tech is the very top picture where we had an opportunity to speak at the signing day for the apprenticeship opportunity. So I've enjoyed having the opportunity to learn this community and become a partner in the Orangeburg community. The second goal was to learn the structures for physical and organizational accountability. Now, I remember my second board meeting when we sat down and looked at the organizational chart and we were trying to make some sense out of it, and I came back with something that was a little more streamlined that would help address the areas that of need that I received from a survey that was sent out to the teaching staff when I first arrived. And we came up with a more streamlined version, and hopefully we can continue to enhance the services where we can then push support down to where it matters the most, and that's our schools and our children. But in addition to that, I had to meet with the business services department to discuss budget details. And we did that early on, and we were able to find some things that were good, but we also identified some areas that we had some urgent needs. Hence, the millage and the deficit, those things, that was done because as part of this plan, it was a strategic goal for us to sit down and really comb through those things. But in addition to that, I had to hire a assistant superintendent for finance. And I've done that, and I think I did a pretty good job as she's come in and done a monumental task of navigating this and getting us back on track. So, you know, that in addition to, I wish I could take credit for all of it, but she does a heavy lift, her and Gail, every day. They're at it, continuing to try to make sure that we get through this situation best possible. But we've also wanted to make sure that not only did we look at our spending protocols, but we also wanted to extend that to the community, where we had our vendor fair, because we wanted to engage those individuals who wanted to do work here in this community to keep our services as best possible here in this community, to give those individuals the opportunity to understand what those procedures are, and we've done those things as well. My third goal was to establish a positive culture and climate between the central office, the school, and the community. And this process started, in my opinion, with those 3 young children that you see in that picture, our back-to-school virtual convocation. You know, that day inspired me probably more than anything to understand what it is and who it is we work for each and every day. To see the excitement, to hear the delivery of those students, it made me want to establish that culture, to get out in the most difficult times, to ensure that every single child, regardless of where you live, had an opportunity for a high-quality educational experience. Also, we wanted to establish and maintain regular meetings with departments. The only way that I can continue to keep a finger on what's going on across all 32 schools, all 1,500 miles of Orangeburg County, is to have a routine meeting. So we have a senior staff meeting every Monday, and you see, not only do we have the meeting, we've established a share page where we communicate and we submit documents so that every single individual on this senior staff can edit, give feedback to ensure that not only one set of eyes has looked at something before it goes out, but multiple. But we're all encouraged to give honest feedback, as we want the best option. We just don't want to be right. And that's what we've established during those meetings. And we sit in the war room oftentimes for hours, having some intense discussions, because the passion to make sure we get it right is our primary goal. But I've also had the opportunity to meet with individuals throughout this community as well, ranging from Dr. Tobin, Dr. Womack at our various colleges, but I also had the pleasure of attending some community events out as well with the swearing in of our new senator, Senator Vernon Stevens. So we want the school district to have a presence in this community and at community events. I've done this in person, but also had the opportunity to do it virtually on a number of forums as well. That was part of this goal, and that was my commitment to being part of this community, is not only understanding, but being accessible and approachable to anyone and everyone in this community. Goal number 4 was to maintain safety and security for all students and staff. And during the pandemic, this was probably and is the most primary and most important goal of all. But when we got here, we had to sit down and I met with the security folks and the operations, and I wanted to know what were our crisis management responses. And those things were not completed. But I'm happy to report today that not only have we met, got feedback, we have a new crisis response manual district-wide. But not only having a manual, we also conducted the trainings in every single building with their point person to make sure that we understand those processes and procedures to ensure safety during a crisis in our schools. In this very room, whenever we were working 4 days in the summertime, I met with every single lead and head of every single law enforcement division to talk about the things going on in this community, to talk about safety, to talk about our resource officers. But we have also reactivated the task force where Mr. Bobby Rivers and James White and Bob Grant and also Mr. Hayward John meet with our SROs to get feedback on things. So we're trying to approach education and this community from every single angle. You also see here on the screen that it doesn't stop with just the physical security, but you also have to look at your buildings. I've had numerous conversations with Mr. Hess, Bob Grant, about improving our facilities to ensure that the environments, things like flooring, painting, which you'll hear later this evening, are happening, that we can improve the physical appearance of our schools. Because we want to not only show and have kids in a spot that they're proud of, but we want to show our community that we're good stewards of taxpayers' dollars, that we're taking care of the facilities that we have. So as you see here, there's a text message here, and it was unique to put that. That happened over the Christmas break, because just because everyone's on break, some people are working. And I like to text people, and they laugh whenever they're off, because I'll get an idea. But that's the team that we have. They always respond, and they do it with a smile, at least in my face. But that text message is saying, you'll hear today that we did some projects over the Christmas break, and I wanted to check on what the status was. And they're responding back to me that here's the status of those things, even over Christmas break, because folks are committed to any opportunity we can get, any window we have to improve our facilities for our students, then they're doing that. Also, students being home, it gives us a window to do some things that I believe are important to ensure the safety of all of our students. And bullying has been an issue across this country for a number of years. So we've also discussed, and we're in the process now of implementing an online report of a bully process, so that individuals who feel like they've been bullied, they can do it anonymously online, and it'll go to an individual that can address those things. So we're having those discussions while we have this window, while majority of the kids may or may not be in a building, but even in a virtual setting. This is something that kids can use if you're at home. So we're working on those processes and procedures, because it's about access. It's about getting information to the individuals that need to get the information so that they can assist. But you'll also see that we'll be presenting a code of conduct that we didn't have, because having 3 separate school districts, we now have a unified code of conduct. And just on Monday, myself and senior staff met, and Dr. Calloway is going to begin working with Mr. Hayward John to establish a PD plan ongoing to start training our assistant principals on utilizing this code of conduct and understanding the laws that go behind student discipline, so that everyone is well versed when we start to gain the number of students back in the building. We want to not only be firm but fair, but also stay within the confines of the law when disciplining and rehabilitating children for maybe poor choices. So that is something we're planning as well, and excited about that because I enjoy those things, getting kids, teaching them how to behave. Because in this day and time, you no longer hear me say to students, you know better than that, because they may or may not know, because they may have never been taught. So just like we teach math, English, science, and social studies, it's contingent upon us to teach behavior, not only school behavior, but also workplace behavior. So I'm excited to continue this path. My final goal was to evaluate the current instructional program to ensure that all students are provided an opportunity to maximize their academic potential. I'm excited about this as well. As you'll hear later this evening, we're going to present to you a new student course catalog, a 98-page document where we're trying to expand the course offerings, but also give clear descriptions of what the courses are. So as students go through and select courses, they know what it is they're choosing. Our goal is to maximize that student's potential, to give them the opportunities and access to the core content, but those things that spark their educational fire, we want to give them opportunities to engage in those areas as well. But we also took some time to review the data, the instructional data throughout the school district. We took a whole day with the principals because coming together as 3 separate school districts, I don't know if anyone really could say how we looked as a consolidated school district instructionally and academically. But we took that data and we also challenged our principals to teach and learn how to disaggregate that data as it relates to their report cards. Because we can only find out where we need to improve by knowing the data in which we have in front of us. So we did that, and Dr. Wanda McMichael did an outstanding job of presenting that data, but also breaking down how the report card is calculated so we could have target areas as they went back to their schools and worked with their leadership teams on setting their individual goals, the instructional goals of their school buildings. But we also looked at the organizational structure of the Instructional Services Department to see how we can provide as much support on the ground floor to our schools as possible. But you also see, you can't see it now, but next to that chart is a schedule that the instructional services staff are given where they in teams go visit schools on a routine basis. That's an expectation, that not only are we visible, but we're there giving support. It's not I got you, it's how can I help you, what's going on, especially during these challenging times. I mentioned earlier about the high school course catalog. I'm excited for you to hear more about that, and that's in your packet as well. But the final action step for my 5th goal was the instructional technology throughout the school. When I got here, every single school across this county didn't have the same classroom technology. Some had a lot, some had none. But I can say, and I'm thankful to the technology department, Ms. Piccolino, Mr. Ham, that when teachers returned to the classroom yesterday, they were all able to walk in their classroom. If they didn't have a brand new ClearTouch board, there's one in their classroom now. We've been able to deploy updated teacher laptops to those teachers, and the final remaining 400 are here on site, and we're planning to deploy those to those teachers as well. But we know that COVID and this pandemic has put a stress on our teachers and how they provide instruction. So we'll be deploying a new piece of technology called an OWL Pro, which is a 360-degree panoramic voice-activated camera, which will give them flexibility in how they teach during these challenging times. And this is in every single classroom. So if you were in the LRE or if you're at Edisto, it shouldn't matter which classroom you walk into. You have a standard set of technology that you know that you can depend on here in the school districts, and I'm excited to do that. So a lot has been done in a short period of time, but by a wonderful group of people. And I close with this slide because my goal and our goal remains that we continue to strive to become one community and one school district. So, Madam Chair, that concludes my update. As you read through the pamphlet in your packet, you'll see many more artifacts that address many of the other action steps that I was not able to include here, but we could have put a ton of things. And I want to take the opportunity to thank the senior staff here, because these individuals were pulling these artifacts. They show me what you have here. So it's about a team effort, and I can't stand here and take credit for the wonderful job that this entire team has done, because I can't do anything without them or without this school board and this community. So, Madam Chair, that concludes my report. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
For Dr. Foster?
Madam Chair, I don't have a question.
Or comment?
I have a comment to commend you on the technology that has been implemented and given to our staff. They thoroughly enjoy, and we would like to thank you
Thank you.
and your staff.
Madam Chair, that concludes that portion of my report. All righty. Moving on, Madam Chair, as I've done in the past, giving an update on the COVID numbers. The last DHEC disease activity report dated December 30th, 2020. We have not received one for the 2021 school year yet, but all counties in the state of South Carolina currently are in the high category. We're high in 2 of the 3 areas in the incidence of rate and the percentage positive. Our current positivity rate at that time, I believe it's grown since then, was 27.7%. And we're medium in the trend rate, and this was, again, back in December 30th of 2020. So as soon as I get the updated disease activity report from DHEC, I'll be sure to forward that to the board for your information. But in regards specifically to the school district, we monitor our numbers as well. We started to look at our student numbers, and our student numbers dating back to September, September 1st, 2020, to now, we've had 617 students impacted by COVID. That could be a positive, close contact, or having to quarantine. Of that 617, we have 194 positive cases, and that dates back all the way to September. But we wanted to take a little further and look at how we're being impacted after our breaks. So the student numbers starting on January the 4th, 2021, we've had 211 students of that 617 that have been impacted. That could be positive cases and or close contacts, and this is over the break. And since we've gotten back in school, we've had 87 positive student cases in Orangeburg County. Wanted to make sure the board was aware of that. Also, we have put into action Nurse Patty. Any nurse that wants to be vaccinated, we have gotten nurses that have begun to already receive their vaccination, as they were in the 1A section of the deployment. And hopefully, as soon as we can get information about how we can transition the 1B, which are educators and support staff, I'll be sure to get that information and try to get a process out to individuals who wish to get the vaccination as quickly as possible. I'll publicly say that the minute that I can get it, I'm going to be sitting in somebody's chair getting the vaccination. So I encourage everyone that to continue to look out for that information as we move forward. But we're going to try to ensure that our teachers get information in a timely manner. And I want to commend Nurse Pageant. The day that I gave that information to her, she reached out to MUSC, and we had scheduled appointments that very next day. And she also found a process with Prisma Health in Columbia as well. So again, our nurses have already begun to get vaccinated, as well as the information is going out to our school physical therapists and our speech pathologists and our occupational therapists, who also, which I learned, fell into the 1A category as well. So those individuals that want it are in the process and have the information to get their vaccinations. Madam Chair, member board, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that the board may have in regards to the COVID numbers or what's going on with that.
Any board members have any questions about COVID?
Madam Chair, my final item on the agenda is the return to school plan. We were scheduled to return to a hybrid model after the Martin Luther King holiday on January the 19th. We've been discussing this and following the numbers. I am going to ask the board and this community's consideration to allow me to make a decision on Thursday. That's the 14th day from New Year's. We've seen the numbers here in our particular county. I've been keeping abreast of the news media, and I've spoken with the new interim CEO at the hospital, and we're continuing to look at these numbers and what's going on at Orangeburg at Regional Medical Center. So I understand that people want to make decisions and want to know, but I think it's prudent that not only do we give a decision, but it's the right decision. So I'm going to ask the patience of this community to allow us to Thursday to see what numbers continue to do before we come back and make a decision as to how and in what model we'll return for any type of instruction if that's the direction that the numbers will allow us to do. Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes my report.
Dr. Foster, thank you so much for your report, and I would like to commend you too, especially on your presentation about the entry plan update presentation. So at this time, we will continue with our agenda, and we will have our curriculum and instruction update.
Madam Chair, board members, and Dr. Foster, instructional activities that are currently offered in schools but are not listed in the activity coding manual published by the State Department of Education must receive local board approval. A student can earn only elective credit for a locally designed elective and approved course. Each district must maintain a listing of all locally approved courses by subject area and subgroups. These activities must be uniformly numbered within each school district. All locally board approved courses must be approved by the district's Board of Trustees each year and evidenced in the board minutes. At this time, Madam Chair, we are seeking approval for marching band to be counted as a locally designed approved course for grades 9 through 12 as an elective course. And Madam Chair, this will also be followed by information related to our course offerings for the next school year, 2021-2022.
We'll entertain a motion. Are there any discussions at first? Any discussion about
Question, Madam Chair. Marching band 9 through what were those grades?
Grades 9 through 12.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, are there any other questions? Hearing none. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve marching band as an identified local course for the 2021-2022 school year as a first reading.
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve marching band as an identified local course for the 2021-2022 school year as first reading.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we approve marching band as identified local course for the 2021-2022 school year as first reading.
Thank you. At this time, Dr. Scott and Ms. Faith Arthur will share.
Let's vote.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have to vote. So right now we have to vote. Are you ready for the question? Any more discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Are there any opposed? Dr. Quinn?
I'm in favor.
Okay, I think that was unanimous. So the motion was carried, and we will have, the board has approved the marching band as an identified local course for the 2021-22 school year, and this was our first reading.
Thank you, and my apologies again. At this time, Dr. Veronica Scott and Mrs. Faith Arthur will come with some additional information for our course catalog for the upcoming school year.
Hold on. Ms. Sims. Okay.
I can answer this, Sims. But what is the marching band looking like in our high schools?
Right now, marching band in our high schools, we have active marching bands at Northern and HKT, OW. We're currently working on marching bands at Lake Marion, Branchville, Bethune as well to enhance those programs. We just had a meeting on Tuesday to discuss fine arts options and how to enhance marching band in all schools.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Foster, senior staff. During the fall of the school year, several school district stakeholders, to include district staff from Student Support Services, as well as the Office of Curriculum and Instruction, guidance services, principals, collaborated to develop the Orangeburg County School District course catalog. And we would like to provide you an overview of the catalog this evening. The purpose of the course catalog for Orangeburg County School District has developed this comprehensive publication to provide secondary school guidance, information, and procedures relating to course offerings in our district. An overview of the contents, we will provide you all with the publication, and you will also see some of the information about the various course offerings, graduation and promotion requirements, attendance, athletics, college and career pathways, will all be available to staff, parents, and students. This is an overview of what the catalog looks like and some of the information that it will contain. And it is representative of all high schools within our district, to include our career centers.
The Orangeburg County School District course catalog, it is a living document, and it will be updated periodically to reflect new course offerings, any opportunities and programs. This document will be used by our students, our staff members, parents, and community members to make informed decisions related to district programs and course offerings. So it will be something that we'll continue to update every year or periodically as needed. Thank you.
Or are there any questions for Ms. Arthur?
Yes, Ms. Arthur, I have a question. It was a lot to read, and I didn't have a chance to read it all. But during the past, we have had the senior class. What plans do we have for incoming new seniors coming in with their GPA to bump our top students?
There is a policy that we do have that's in there, and it does reflect that that can't happen. We are using the State Department's guideline, meaning that they would have to be enrolled in by the first of the senior year in order to be included in that status.
Okay.
So they have to be there 4 quarters.
But it is in here.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
We work with Dr. Washington to make sure that those policies are reflected and they align with what's with the State Department as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other further questions for us? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arthur.
Madam Chair, if I could add something. This is just first reading.
Right.
It's an expansive document, and it takes time to get through it all. Commend these young ladies for getting together and writing it from scratch as well, but to bring all stakeholders together to make sure that it's in line with policy, practice, but also meeting the needs of our students. So this is just first reading that we're asking you all to consider. It is a living document as we have opportunities to include additional courses in various schools. We'll continue to update that through addendum and hopefully have a document and course offerings that all students are able to find something outside of the core that they enjoy and have a keen interest in, and hopefully will lead to a future career.
Okay.
We need
We need a
motion to accept
yes,
first reading.
I will accept the motion at this time to approve the local course approval for 2020-21 first reading.
Madam Chair, I move the approval for the course approval of 21 first reading.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that
Not
we.
yet, Ms. Evans.
21-22 school year.
Okay.
Okay, 20.
20.
21.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve for first reading the courses outlined for 21-22 school year.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we approve the local course approval for 2021-2022 first reading. Is there any more discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Dr. Quinn?
I'm in favor.
All those against? Did you get the count? Will you tell us what the count was? All those in favor of approving the local course approval for 21-22 first reading, please raise your hand. Dr. Quinn?
I'm in favor.
So it was unanimous. Okay. Thank you. And at this time, we will continue with our operations update from Mr. Bob Grant.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. I wanted to present just a couple of items to you from the operations department today. We're going to give you an update on some capital projects that were done during the winter break, as well as an update on our lawn services and the report card that we have done with those folks. So the first thing I want to talk about was our roofing projects that are ongoing at Howard and Clark, and then also to remind you that the project at OW will begin once Howard and Clark are completed. That is a picture, not a great picture, but of the roof of Howard's new, their gym roof, which is a metal roof, and it looks really good. And Clark has their roof up as well. Just to give you an idea of where we're at with those projects, Howard Middle School, they've removed all the old roof, and they've done all of the first part of the installation, and right now they're doing the fabrication of the metal that will go over the roof caps. And then at Clark, they have done that for 5 of the 7 areas, and the other 2 areas of that building, they're still continuing to work on those, and they're getting those roof caps and everything finished with those. So Clark is probably about 70% done. Howard is closer to like 85% done, and they should begin putting those caps and everything on the second week, the full second week, which will be right after the Martin Luther King holiday over at Howard. And then again, we'll start work on the project at OW as soon as they can get one crew completely finished at Howard. Also during the winter break, we have 2 sets of projects that we were able to start fairly quickly and get most of that completed. The first is that we are doing some flooring projects And we're replacing carpeting and tile at some selected areas of the schools, like their office areas, media centers, and hallways at Edisto Elementary, Marshall Elementary, Ellery Middle High, and then at William J. Clark Middle. And then we're working on some parking lot projects, and those are repairing potholes, resealing parking lots, and then restriping those lots. And if you remember, this past summer, we started some of the schools. Over the summertime, we were able to get schools, Edisto and Cope Career Center, St. James, Ellery, North Middle High. And so this is a continuation of that project of getting our schools and our parking lots resealed, potholes fixed, and then restriped on those lines. So we worked over the break at Lake Marion High School, Marshall, Sheridan, and then also at the Technology Center. And everything, we have not paid any money yet because we haven't done our final walkthroughs on all of those projects, so we'll get all of those hopefully within the next week. At Ellery, we added a little more to the scope of their project, and so that may extend beyond that, but we'll continue to work through those and then continue to work through our capital projects at other schools. So just wanted to give you just a couple of pictures. If you had been down to Lake Marion High School, that first picture is their bus parking lot. Those lines were completely gone. The buses were they kind of knew where to park, but we've got all those lines restriped right now. And then the second picture in the middle there is William J. Clark. All the schools have the same basic tile in the middle, and then they selected a border color that matched with their school mascot. And then you see some carpeting. I think that's from Marshall, but that is a carpet that we were using all around the district, and they placed those in as carpet squares. So in the event that there is an issue, you can pull up a square or two squares and replace those, and you don't have to pull up an entire room worth of carpet to replace and repair. And then the bottom pictures are I believe that's Marshall, where they were just working on doing some of the sealant after they had repaired some of those potholes. So before I move on, are there any questions about the capital projects in regards to the roofing or the flooring or parking lot projects that we've worked on over the last few weeks, about 4 weeks now? All right, so the last part of my presentation is that our, well, let me back up. As Dr. Foster said, we are, what we want to do is make sure that you know what we're doing, give you updates, and then let you know when it's completed. This is going to be one of those ongoing monitoring tools. We have AccuSweep as our lawn service vendor, and they actually were just bought out by another company called SCA of SC. So we're working to get all of their information changed over from AccuSweep to the new vendor name. But our lawn service company, I presented to you about this in the fall, and then in November I gave you a little update, and we wanted to talk to you about a report card survey that we did for all of our schools and buildings that have this service. We sent out an electronic report card for either the principal or building supervisor to complete to give feedback to the vendor on how they're doing. The report card, and I know this is probably really, really small on your presentation, but number 11, which is the far right top hand, is the overall grade. And if you look at that, our schools, 6 of our schools gave the vendor an A. 14 of them gave them a B, and then 2 gave them a C. All of the other little pie charts you see are specific areas like weeding, cutting the grass, doing the shrub work, responding when there's concerns, and all of those different questions. We provided all of these responses back to our vendor, and then I had conversations with them so that they know specifically at which schools what concerns those principals had or building supervisor had, and then how they're going to move forward to rectify any areas of concern, and then, of course, continuing areas of commendation and continuing to do those really well. And so we will do a second report card at the end of this month, now that they've had even a few more months. And then I know that the spring report card will be a really good one, because when things start growing and we're trying to get pine straw put in and making sure that walkways are edged and all of that will be some really good feedback for them. So we will continue to do this as an ongoing monitoring tool to make sure that our vendors that we're paying money to are doing a really good job in serving our schools well. Overall, there's a lot, the schools are pleased overall with the work that is ongoing, but there are specific areas that they do need to work in. The letter grades on the specific areas range from A to F. And so there's different crews and there's different foremen, and so they want to make sure that they know what those issues are so that they can work through those. Are there any questions in regards to the to this update with the report card for our vendor? All right, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Ombudsman, Assistant to the Superintendent update, Dr. Washington.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board Chair, Vice Chair, Dr. Foster, District Administration. I believe the next item on the agenda are the ethical principles review, and I believe all of you all have signed the poster that Ms. Harrison had at the beginning. So what I'd like to do is after the board meeting, but before executive session, if we could assemble for a quick group photo. Tracy Scoville is going to take it that we'll add to with that poster. I think it's important maybe for the people that are not here or listening in to hear exactly what the ethical principles say. So I'd like to take just a second to read through them out loud, if you don't mind. As members of the Board of Orangeburg County School District, we pledge our efforts to improve public education in our community and will solemnly try to represent the interests of the entire district when making decisions and to rely on available facts and on our judgment rather than on individuals or special interest groups. To understand the proper role of the board is to set policies governing the district and to hire the chief administrative officer to carry out these policies. To encourage an open exchange of ideas by all board members during the decision-making process. To seek regular communications between the board and students, staff, and all segments of the community. To attend all board meetings, to study issues facing the board, and to enact policies and official actions only after full discussion at such meetings. To work with other board members in a conscientious and courteous manner befitting the public trust placed in the position of the school board trustee. To communicate concerns and public reaction to board policies and school programs to the superintendent and to other board members in a professional manner. To support employment of the persons best qualified for staff positions and to ensure a regular and impartial evaluation for all staff. To avoid conflicts of interest and to refrain from using our board positions for personal or partisan gain. To encourage recognition of achievements of students and staff and the involvement of community residents. To support legislation and funding which will improve the educational opportunities and environment for all students and staff. To take no individual action which would compromise the integrity of the board or administration, and to respect the confidentiality of information that is privileged under the Freedom of Information Act. To study current educational issues and to participate in training programs such as those offered through the South Carolina School Boards Association and the National School Boards Association. And to make our district's educational setting the best possible to encourage all students to achieve and to love learning. As you know, we sign this, you all sign this every year. This is sent out from the South Carolina School Boards Association. And Ms. Harrison, she's going to have that framed, and we'll put it up next to the other one that we did last year. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval and discussion of policy DKC. As discussed at the last board meeting, current policy DKC was adopted on March 12th, 2019, and states that the per diem rates for meals for travel is $25 per day in-state and $32 for out-of-state. Proviso 117.20A, which was approved through the General Appropriations Act on June 18th of 2019, increased the per diem rates for meals to $35 a day in-state and $50 for out-of-state. Based on the current change, the board can choose to increase the meal per diem to be consistent with the State Office of the Comptroller General. There is a copy of this memorandum in your folders, I believe, that and Dr. Foster also emailed out as well.
Hearing none at this time, because this is an action item, I will entertain a motion to approve the policy, DKC, expense authorization and reimbursement, to be consistent with the revisions per the Office of the South Carolina State Comptroller General and Proviso 117.20 of the General Appropriation Act.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the policy DKC, expense authorization and reimbursement, to be consistent with the revision per Office of the South Carolina State Comptroller General and Proviso 117.20A of the General Appropriation Act.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we approve the policy DKC, expense authorization and reimbursement, to be consistent with the revisions per the Office of the South Carolina State Comptroller General and Proviso 117.20A of the General Appropriation Act. Are there any more discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Dr. Quinn?
I'm in favor.
All those against? Okay. So the motion carries.
Abstain.
You abstain.
So the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we will continue with the communication, business, and community partnership update.
Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and Dr. Foster, as well as my colleagues and friends, thank you for the opportunity to present tonight another update on our website. As you all know, just before the Thanksgiving holiday, we were very excited to launch our new district website. And at that time, we set a goal. It was a big goal, but we wanted to launch as early as possible at the start of the new year. And I'm very, very proud to say that just before we left for winter break, so right around December the 16th, we launched 98% of our websites, of our school websites at that time. And immediately when we returned from winter break, so the very, very beginning of January, we launched our last few sites. And so we are at 100% currently. Is it perfect yet? I'm sure that it is not. It is going to be a living and breathing communication piece for us. But it was very, very important to me, to all of you, and to our team that we have a website for each and every school so that they could communicate effectively and efficiently with their students, teachers, staff, and families. Just as our district website can be translated to any number of languages, so can our school websites. At the very top of each and every one of our web pages is a little translate button. By clicking that and selecting the world language of your choice, the entire site is translated into your preferred language. Our websites, including the district site as well as all of our school sites, are separated into different channels, and you'll see a channel bar at the top of OW's site. And as you click and hover over those channels, such as our school, academics, teachers, graduation, athletics, or calendar, you'll see a drop down of different sections with different information pertaining to that particular header. The very first channel on each of our school websites is information about the school, including information about the principal, a welcome and contact information for the principal, as well as the nurse, school counselors, and assistant administrators at each school. This part is a work in progress. This is one of the pages that has been fully developed. What we want is for our website to not only be informative to those that are already part of Orangeburg County School District, but we also want it to be informative and engaging for people who are looking to move here. And so one of the things that we've done, and it does take some extra effort, but we have not only provided a staff directory of all of our employees within our district and within our schools, but we've also separated that out. So if you look at an elementary school page, not yet, but in the coming weeks, you'll see that you'll be able to click on academics, and you'll have a header that will say kindergarten, and then you'll have a listing of all the kindergarten teachers. It'll go that way for each and every grade level through 5th grade. And then as our students matriculate into middle and high school, it's then separated into subject areas. So you would have all of your English instructors or your science or mathematics. In addition, when you click on one of those teacher pages in the future, you'll see that each of our teachers will have their own web page. We don't want our teachers to have to do double work, and so part of building the websites was planning with curriculum and instruction, with the directors over each level, and with our teachers of the year, as well as our support staff persons of the year, as I'd mentioned previously. But what we would like is for their page to be welcoming, so a short bio, their office hours, expectations, and links to things, links to other resources that they have, such as Canvas or their preferred resources that they're offering, both in the classroom and for extracurricular activities for their students. This isn't a duplication. It's not something that we don't have bios and other forward-facing platforms for our teachers, but we wanted that kindergarten student or 1st grade student to be able to look up his or her teacher online and get excited about the new school year. And another of our channels is student and parent resources. These overlap in many areas, but we wanted parents and students to have, just at the click of a button, all the different resources that they would need or that their grandparents would need to help them with their school activities, both their instruction and extracurricular. Our middle and high schools, of course, have athletics, and we certainly recognize that that's a large part of the student experience. And so our middle and high school webmaster, Zeb Dinkins, has done a wonderful job in building out these athletic pages for our schools. They are really content-rich with videos, information about the athletic directors, coaches, upcoming events. And this is actually where we will be streaming our athletic competitions, since those will not have spectators currently. When those resume in the coming weeks, we will be streaming them right here on our web pages. And I do just want to revisit that. One of the reasons we want to include it on our web page is because we want, of course, we want to draw traffic to our website. We want parents, we want this to be their go-to source for information. And we also recognize that when parents are watching a game, that we can also put information on our website, such as report cards are coming, or an SAT workshop. So if we bring them to our web page, we're able to enrich the experience where it's not just athletics, but also to include some additional information that we'd like to share with parents, and that gives us an additional opportunity to do so. All of our school pages have announcement sections, so that's another go-to place for parents and others that are supporting our students in their academics. They also have social media, and then all of our pages also have a link to our Smart Virtual Health Collaborative, which is where student devices can be utilized to access the family's choice of virtual health care providers. Obviously very pertinent right now when students and families need to seek medical care if they're not feeling well, but this gives them a way to do so without potentially exposing anyone to a communicable disease. All of our schools also have a direct link to their school report card. So if you look at the bottom of each and every school web page, you'll see school report card, and that links directly to their own report card on the State Department of Education. And then what I think is the most important thing that we keep up to date is the calendar. Each of our schools has their own calendar, and each of those calendars populates into 4 upcoming events. So it shows the next 4 consecutive events coming up on the calendar. We've built in some global icons. So these are just large icons on each of our web pages, and they link directly to an important piece of information, such as email, transportation, and this particular one is for enrollment, whether the student is enrolling for the first time in Orangeburg County Schools, or if they're a returning student. This directs them directly there, as well as to information and a link for enrollment in our 100% virtual learning platform or Orangeburg Online. And again, we've added multiple access points for the information that students and families and employees will be accessing most frequently. So you may see that under our school, you'll have a directory of staff. That information is also included in a global icon. So just a quick update on where we are. As I'd mentioned previously, this has been a collaborative process and will continue to be. We want our web pages to work well for our schools and our students and our community. So we'll continue to make edits and changes and to build the sites as is requested by our schools and community. We have, of course, launched our school websites. We've had our first training with the communications liaisons at each school. So that's the one person that will be sort of the go-to source for gathering information, for sharing it with our department, and for even tinkering around with our own web page with the help of our webmasters. We've already started to work on some how-to videos as well as step-by-step instructions. That will be released in the coming weeks to our liaisons. And after that, our website can also be used as an intranet, meaning that our staff members will log into the web page and have information and be able to view information that is only available to staff. So if Mr. Holliday needed everybody to make sure that they signed their contract or their letter of intent, or we had some announcement that was just particular to staff, we'll be able to utilize it for that purpose as well. And after that, just some information for teacher websites. Again, it's not a lot of information. The committee felt strongly that we wanted just the bare minimum for each teacher web page. But we will be providing some teacher website training through the liaisons, as well as through virtual options, since COVID looks like it's here for a little bit longer than all of us had hoped. But just again, this is going to be something that will continually be updated and refined. Excited for where we are, but certainly we're not finished. And thank you for the opportunity.
Are there any questions? I have one. Ms. Pelzer? Thank you so very much, you and your team, for all the work that you are doing on the websites. I have one question,
Yes,
I think. At each school has a website. So who's going to be responsible to make sure they are kept up to date?
So we're very fortunate to have an elementary webmaster who also serves on the and supports the district site, as well as a secondary school, so middle and high school webmaster. This is a different way of managing web pages than I'm accustomed to, and I'm thrilled for the opportunity to make our websites even more informative and attractive through this revised model. But we also do have communications liaisons at every school, so they're trained on what information to collect and also how to update the web page. They're not required to do so, though they can lean on our webmasters for support. I will say, I think managing the website and keeping it up to date is an effort and a responsibility. I think Dr. Foster, I hope, would agree with me that it's a leadership opportunity for our principals. I think that they believe in the importance of having consistent, accurate, and effective communication, and so ensuring that their web page is up to date is going to ultimately fall on the building level principals.
Ms. Pels, if I can add something as well, there's a document that we've been working on that's an audit of the websites. So we will have a process to audit websites randomly to give feedback as well. But we're going to give them an opportunity to get them up and running. But that's a checks and balances measure that we'll put in place to do a random audit by some of those webmasters to say, hey, this information has not been updated, and then we'll be able to get that and it'll be done randomly.
And the same would be, we would invite our webmasters to do the same for our district site. Like I said, it's a work in progress and will continuously be updated. So we're always going to be improving it. And if you have any edits that you'd like to see made, please do share, board members as well as the community. Thank you. Thank you.
This time it's time for our executive session. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session for personnel recommendation, contractual matters, employment matter, employee appeal, and an update on legal matter.
Madam Chair, I move that we enter into executive session to discuss personnel recommendation, contractual matter, employment matter, employee appeal, and update on legal matters.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we go into executive session for the purpose of personnel recommendation, contractual matters, employment matter, employment appeal, and update on legal matters. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Dr. Quinn?
I'm in favor.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We will go into executive session. Thank you. How we gonna do the picture, y'all? Because we keeping the mask on.
Into open session.
Madam Chair, I move that we return to open session at this time.
Second. It's been moved and properly second that we come out of executive session into open session. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Dr. Quinn?
I'm in favor.
At this time, we will consider any actions coming out of executive session.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the referral program as presented in executive session. I move that we extend the FFCRA benefits that expired December 31st, 2020 through the remainder of the year. I move that we do not hear the appeal of employee A. And I move that we approve the personnel recommendation, resignation, and reassignment as presented in executive session.
Mario Brown, second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the employee referral program as presented in executive session, that we extend the FFCRA benefit that expired December 31st, 2020 through the remainder of the year, that we do not hear the appeal of employee A, and that we approve the personal recommendations, resignations, and reassignment as presented in executive session. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Dr. Quinn?
I'm in favor.
All those opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I have one announcement that I have, and those persons that are still listening to us. The next board meeting will be a video streaming on the district website, so we'll look forward to maybe you all seeing us on the screen instead of listening to us. Are there any other announcements?
Happy New Year.
At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and that our next meeting will be January 26th at 6:30 p.m.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adjourn, so good evening, and let's have our vote. Everybody? Dr. Quinn?
Yes.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.